The FDA wants to further regulate e-cigarettes. This coming out after the DEA proposes to move Kratom to a Schedule 1 drug offense. This just in the bothersome truth.
Yeah.
So the FDA wants to move these e-cigarettes, the cigars, as well as the hookahs
the hookah tobacco,
to the overarching FDA regulations that the tobacco industry is underneath. And as you know, the tobacco industry in 1998 had to settle for a master settlement agreement, and ever since then they've been paying about $10 billion annually, so about $200 billion. The tobacco industry has been having to foot the bill for ever since everyone started really cracking down on tobacco. Mm-hmm. And that was more of a social movement to get that started, right? But, tobacco kind of salty. And they're like, hey, FDA, what about these other guys who are, selling stuff? I mean, shouldn't we scrutinize their products and services a little bit more closely?
Yeah, and let me throw the other side on that, because I think it's good to see both sides of this, but I still think, like Emmanuel said, this is problematic. If you read the article, what they're saying is that when it comes to the regulation of e-cigarettes, for example, they're saying that it's a Wild West out there. You can have exploding batteries. You have candy flavor, which gets a lot of teenagers into it. They're saying that there could be some potentially dangerous and harmful chemicals in it. So they're saying that it needs to be more regulated for those reasons. Now, that sounds great. But you always have to be careful about whether the motivations and the things you hear are actually true. It can sound good, but sound good is not equal to true. And so this is also what we're hearing with Kratom. So Kratom is a drug, if you've never heard of it, I had never heard of it till this week. Yeah. Kratom is a drug, and I did a video about this week. Kratom is a drug that's used to help people get off of opiate addiction because it interacts with the brain similarly. And also people use it recreationally. And what the FDA the DEA is saying is it should be moved Schedule 1 along with like heroin because they're saying it has no proven medical benefit. Now, I just told you that there's a medical benefit. There's an American Kratom Association that talks about this. People who say that it has helped them, but the DEA is saying there's no proven medical benefit. That key word proven is important because they also said that about marijuana. Just recently, they want to keep marijuana Schedule 1 because they say there's no proven benefit. But there's only one lab in the country that can even do legal work on it. And the government holds a patent in medical marijuana. So it's interesting when you say there's no proven benefit, but you control who can work on it, and you have a patent for medical use. So I see a pattern here. That's why I think it's important we talk about this story. There's a pattern here, and that pattern is problematic.
I mean, there's one other thing too that you didn't mention in the pattern too. Mm-hmm. With Kratom, one of the reasons why people use it recreationally, whatever that means, they want to use it. One of the reasons why they use it is because it helps relieve people of opiate addiction.
Yes, and it helps them deal with it, yes. And it weans them off.
The most common addiction, especially up in the Northeast, are the following drugs. And you tell me where people get these drugs. Hydrocortisone, Oxycontin, and what was one more? I forgot the last one. But those two, I mean, who gives people those drugs? Do they fly them over from Mexico?
I wonder. Could it be pharmacies?
The pharmaceutical companies give people those drugs. So you're saying that the DEA moved to Schedule 1 a drug, a naturally occurring drug that you can grow in your backyard, that helps to relieve addiction to a product given by the pharmaceutical companies.
The other problem is when you look at the kratom that they're trying to outlaw, it's like 2 of the active ingredients in the plant. Well, if you have pharmaceutical companies that decide that they want to make a drug with that, and they say, no, we don't want people to use this plant to get off opiate addiction. We'd rather commercialize it, and we will make a drug to help people get off the drugs that we're already giving people in too high of numbers, which causes the opiate addiction anyway.
You're describing an oligarchy. You're describing rigging the market.
And now some of you may hear this and say, well, Daniel, that's conspiracy theory talk. Well, not all conspiracy theories are wrong. Some of them are right. And what we do have in this country, we do have a proven track record. If you look at the other videos that we've done today about Hillary and the FBI, you see that there is a track record of corruption in our country, and you see that this isn't just made up. So we come back to the e-cigarette thing, and we have lobbyists who are working with Congress and writing the legislation, and then the lawmakers want to pass it. And New York Times article talked about this. They're passing the legislation written by the lobbyists with no changes.
The legislation is written by the lobbyists. But again, I want to demonstrate a pattern for you folks who think that this is a conspiracy theory. Because I think in algebraic formats, right? For me, A plus B equals C, or A times B equals C, right? And I don't need to have B in order to conclude what C is, right? I just need to know what A and C is, or I just need to know what A and B is in order to conclude what C is, right? And so you have a pattern here. Kratom, for instance, they want to move Kratom to Schedule 1 because it helps relieve you of opiate addictions. Pharmaceutical companies sell you opiates that make you addicted. Marijuana is, of course, notoriously one of the highest Schedule 1 products, Schedule 1 substances. And what could marijuana be used as an alternative to? The cancer treatment cocktails that they use for chemotherapy. Of course, pharmaceutical companies benefit by millions into the billions of dollars by selling you those cocktail treatments that have been proven 97% of the time not to work. I guess it's a conspiracy theory that they want marijuana criminalized. And then finally, now we're coming to the present with the FDA regulations over the tobacco industry, and the tobacco industry now wanting to pass legislation and help author legislation to provide more restrictions on their competitors like e-cigs, hookahs, and cigars, all of which are healthier, except for cigars, alternatives to cigarettes.
And I just want to be clear here, because I think the reality is, like, I'm an evidence kind of guy. I have a journalism background, so I like to dig for the stories and see what they cite. I think there's enough evidence to show that we have a huge government corruption problem when it comes to this. And I think the reason why a lot of us don't see it is because we don't want to. Like, who says, oh, you know what I want to read today? Pharmaceutical articles in the New York Times and the Washington Post. Or I want to read, we don't always look for that because sports season is kicking up. It's Labor Day weekend. Our teams are playing. So I think the evidence is out there for different things. We just don't always look for it. And I just want to add this too. I'm not against regulations. I'm for sensible, reasonable regulations. And I don't want overreaching, overbearing regulations. I want just enough to do the job and then move on. So if we want to say that there's a problem when it comes to teenagers getting addicted to e-cigarettes, if we want to say that there could be potentially harmful stuff in it, if we want to say that we want to make sure that there's no exploding batteries, that's fair. Let's talk about, Samsung's dealing with that issue right now. They're having to recall Note 7s because they're exploding. So if there's an issue there, let's deal with reasonable regulations on it, but let's not be overbearing to the point where it looks like foul play is involved by the big players in the game who want to cripple the small players in the game. And that's what it looks like. Everyone says, oh, let's just leave it up to the free markets. Well, we don't have free markets. Because if we had free markets, we wouldn't have the big players who are influencing the entry of the small players who are trying to enlarge the market and trying to offer reasonable competition.
And that's the problem. And that's why the Democratic solutions, the Republican solutions, any of those solutions, the status solutions, will never work, because the problem is we don't have free markets. And we don't have free markets because we have an oligarchy of private corporations, private multinational corporations, who are rigging the markets in their favor. I just demonstrated to you three successive events. Right? We have a pattern here.
At least three.
That's at least three. That's just mentioning in this little 10-minute or less video. We have a pattern here of corporations using government to control the markets. That's the bothersome truth. Hope you enjoyed our dose of bothersome truth. We are constantly prescribing the medicine of truth. If you have any suggestions or would like to have your truth explored on the show, email us at bothersometruth@gmail.com. The best way to get your next dose is to subscribe, share our truth with your friends and family, and we can save the world together.